Hey everyone, I am here with not just one of our clients who buys a lot of product from us, but a friend. I consider a friend, and I love this man, Scott Rudder, which is an amazing human being who works really hard. He owns Township Green, which is a great little dispensary. The people who work for him are really they're amazing. I can only say that from social media because I see what they do, the passion that they have into bringing it in, and how hard they work in Scott's store. And we have been through a lot really together. We've had we started together. I gotta say the story because I'm so proud of you.
Oh,
You know,
stop.
you have been a mensch. Like I remember meeting you for the first time, and we met in Trenton, and we sat in a little coffee shop or a diner, whatever it was, together with you and your partners at that time, and it was Michael and I. And then we all came out of the restaurant, and we were walking somewhere, and then there was a really bad car accident. You could hear the crash of the two cars colliding, and before I know it, I was ready to go up there and see if they need help. He was already halfway up the block, and he wasn't as thin as he is right now. But he ran, like he booked. He didn't just stand there and look to see what happened. He was already there. So I really was very impressed with you the first time I met with you, and I'm still impressed. Good for you.
And likewise, Nathan. I mean, when we first met, you told all kinds of stories of your background, your journey from Israel to the United States. You're working at or living in the basement apartment
Correct,
where
yes.
your dad
Good memory.
managed the place, and you know, and then you start with basically nothing, seeing the work ethic that's going on around you and your family, and you segue into business and what you shared about your T-Mobile experience, and then as a client, you know, as you being a client of mine at the time, I was like, this guy's going to be great. He's going to be great for the industry. He's going to be, you know, there's a lot of folks who enter into the cannabis space, myself included, who don't have a strong retail background, a strong business background. We have passion for the plant or something else that's driving us here, but to have your experience and knowledge and to be able to take all of that from your childhood experiences to what you did at T-Mobile to bring all that knowledge to the cannabis industry, not just for you personally, but what you provide guidance for others. And that's actually, you know, to be quite honest, that's why I'm here today.
Thank you.
Right. So I, you know, in full disclosure, I reached out to Nathan a few days ago to have a conversation to talk to him about, you know, what's going on from his perspective. And so he invited me to the studio here. So it's really cool that you did that.
Thank you.
Because I just, you know, I trust so much what you have to say, and I value your experience and your mentorship. And, you know, you have a lot to provide, not just, you know, for your friends, but anybody that reaches out to you, and customers too, the dispensary operators that look at you, an authorized dealer, as a source of product and that's affordable and that's ready to get to, and your turnaround time that your team has. It's just, you know, we're you know, we try to keep our orders low and keep them frequent.
Good.
And you're the perfect partner to work with that. And so, you know, thank
you
you so much for your friendship and your business partnership.
Thank you, Scott. Scott and I, we also share something very different. So if you're comfortable, we can talk about it. Our health. We both about the same time, but for me it was later that Scott got really sick and wind up in the hospital for months.
For months.
For months. God bless you.
Thank you.
You are strong. You made it out alive. You're alive.
I'm alive.
Yeah, and you really are alive. It's not like BS. Like, we are alive. We're alive. We want to do things. We
Right
want
on.
to see things. We want to eat things. We want to do so much more than we do now. And I, unfortunately, was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and I was operated on. And I was told that I'm going to be home for 3 months. And I told the surgeon the day of, I said, "What, are you crazy? I'm going to be at work next week." Well, no. I was home for 3 months, and it wasn't easy. It's still not easy because, you know, there's so many treatments I take to stay alive and to keep the glioblastoma from growing and moving and shaking and all that stuff. Now, Scott, if you're comfortable to talk a little bit about your health issue, I would love to talk about that.
Sure. For me, it was just a series of bad decisions. So my health was self-inflicted. So my health problems were self-inflicted. It was just for the past few years, leading up to a heart attack that happened in December of 24, that led to a surgery in February. So I'll get to that in a second. But it was just the previous few years. I was working with all my clients, trying to get the industry going, and working with the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association, trying to get more things going, regulatory things, getting a campaign for legalization done, and just so much. And then I decided, like, okay, I'm going to not just be a consultant or a lobbyist. I want to own my own business. I want to get my own license, and that's where, being a former mayor, and I'm looking at all the different opportunities, manufacturing, cultivation, retail, and otherwise, and I'm just thinking retail. For me, retail politics, shaking people's hands, making people feel comfortable,
really good at.
creative environment that people enjoy, and so I decided to do that. But putting that all together, and I don't come from money. I had to go raise all this money. I had to go get loans. I had to get $50,000 here and $20,000 there, and just pulling that all together was a lot of stress. So I dealt with stress not by going to the gym, but by eating and drinking and bad decisions and 80-hour work weeks and not enough sleep, and you start the next day with coffee and you just go again and just kept rinse and repeat for a long time, and eventually it all caught up to me because I'm not in my 30s, I'm in my 50s, and it caught up to me, and when I'm having a heart attack in December, didn't know it at the time. I don't know if I talked to you about that story, but I thought I was having a panic attack.
No, you didn't, but I understand. I think a lot of people go through that.
You just don't know because you hear about a heart attack and there's an explosion and there's stuff and instant death, and so I'm having some health thing going, and so I just did breathing exercises, and then that turned into a visit with my doctor, which turned into a visit with a cardiologist, which turned into you need to go to the hospital today, and then that happened, and it's scheduled into surgery, and then I was normal surgery, and then after that, Nathan, I was released in 10 days, but then I went home, and then I had sepsis. So all my organs were now infected, and so I had all these other issues. That set me back with another series of open heart surgeries, a couple different hospitals, and I died. I got brought back. My kids were told that I was going to die in the next surgery, and I made it. And that was last year, that was last summer, and all kinds of stuff. But it took a lot of time for rehab. But I was so excited on a family level, for sure, and on a business level that, I was able to go through all that, and my team at Township Green stayed there. They didn't leave, they didn't quit. They kept the store going, and we were squeaking by. You were squeaking by towards the end, and I got back in there with everybody, and then things started going again, and now we're on a good trajectory. So all the stuff that happened, but you keep moving forward. You just got to keep moving forward.
It's a beautiful story. I know it.
Crazy story.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
It really is crazy how it happened to you, and it only took a couple of years for you to get to the level where you're hospitalized and you're fighting for your life. For me, it was a little different because it just happened. I didn't expect to get crazy mother effing headaches that I got. And they were so bad. They were so bad that after 5 or 6 days, I told my wife, she did some research. She found a surgeon in Hackensack, and we went to see him, and he told me, yes, you have a brain tumor, and we need to operate on you as soon as we can. So go get your things, come back here within a couple of days, you're going to be operated on. And that's how it started for me. On July 24th, I was operated on, and nothing has been the same ever since. I feel older, I feel weaker, but I love my job, and I love what I do, and I love people.
You and Michael and your leadership team, you provide this great environment, and it's just, you can see it and feel it as soon as you walk through the door.
Thank you. Where do you see the industry going?
That's what I want to talk to you about, actually. Now,
well, we'll go back next door.
Yeah, I know.
We're done, yeah.
So, but I that's what I'm trying to figure out. And so I for those of you who don't know me, I'm Scott Rudder. I formed the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association in 2016. I helped co-chaired the legalization campaign in 2020. Consulting, lobbying, a former mayor, former state assemblyman. So I know the political side of things. and I was able to do a lot for people, you as a client, with regards to locations and dealing with townships and mayors and so forth. And that was the thing that I brought to the table for the cannabis industry, was more the policy and the politics. And I have a business background, but not a retail background. And I honestly thought this was going to be one of those things where this should just fit into here, it should fit into here, and it should be, not that it would ever be easy, but it shouldn't be this hard. And then you're in it, and then all this competition is popping up around you, and there's inconsistency in the quality of product and the consistency of product, and your customers are thinking of you like a liquor store. Why don't you always have the same stuff over and over again?
Yeah, they don't get it.
And so it's because it's a brand new industry. So we're seeing businesses that have failed. We're seeing some consolidations. We're seeing some bankruptcy, and we're seeing some action at the federal level. So, for me, it's just like, where are we at this industry? It's not something where we can look back necessarily at Colorado and how Colorado did it, because it had a different type of market.
Yeah.
So you look at similar markets. You look at New York. Well, here's got all kinds of challenges with New York. So believe it or not, New Jersey is one of the better markets, and which is not something New Jersey is known for, is having great markets. But we actually have a pretty solid market in New Jersey, and that's where I just trying to predict the future is really hard right now. But I do think that as operators like you, a distribution company that's coming out. So when people in the liquor world or the restaurant world, they're ordering their stuff, they usually go to like one major distributor and they get everything they want from one place. And, so that's one of the things I see, that's an evolving opportunity for folks and for you guys in particular. Because a little guy like me, a dispensary like me, when we started in 2024, you really only had the larger MSOs to order from, and they all had $10,000, $15,000 minimum buys. And you don't know when you open up your doors, what my customers are going to want. We have guesstimations, and based on facts and based on other people's statistics, and you can estimate all these things. Is your location the right one? You don't know. You don't know until the day one you open up that door and you see what happens. And for a lot of folks like me, the smaller guys, all of a sudden you realize, like, I have way more inventory than I have customers. And these guys, before I can order again, they need to be paid back. And you're just in this vicious cycle of owing money and trying to get this stuff, making sure the customers are happy. And a lot of businesses have failed. I've been fortunate that we've been able to sort of get through a lot of the hard times. We're on a good trajectory right now, but I think this industry is, we're going to see some more consolidations happen. I think once we see banking normalize at the federal level, you'll see a lot of acquisitions happening. And I think that's where, people are trying to position themselves. Are they going to position themselves because they want to operate for the next 10, 15 years? Or do they want to position themselves so they can be ready to be bought in 3 to 5 years? So that's kind of where I see things going.
Amazing. Great. The way you're thinking and what you're saying is really what the industry is going to go through. And one thing I definitely agree with Scott is that CRC here, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, did a good job. I'm not complaining. I never had an issue with them, and I'm not. This is not a kiss-ass video. This is telling the CRC you've done.
There's some improvements that need to be made for sure. But
yeah,
we have a great
There's always
structure.
room for improvements.
Right on.
But all in all, they did a better job than next door.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that.
No, they do. And there's more things that need to happen, and it's really the normalization of things. I think you see at your stores at Puffin and in New Brunswick and Indigo here and where all your guys go to, that normalizing the retail experience for our customers. So that's a big important part of it. Like the film that we have on our windows so customers can't see in the store, that's silly, right? You spend, for me, I spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars to make my store look beautiful, and no one's allowed to see it unless they go in. So when there's a big parade or something out front, I'm on a main street. I'm on Scott Street in Riverside, and if there's a big event going on outside, and people are walking by, they can't look inside. If you're shopping to get to the Chinese restaurant next door, you see a dispensary, you can't look in, so you're like, well, why? What's going on in there? So there's things like that need to have those common sense improvements. Just how people check out. So for me, it's on the retail side especially, it's just normalizing that experience. You know, you want to bring your little kid in, which people do. You know, I live in a residential area, so there'll be a dad with his son coming in, and the lollipops come out, and you know, we make sure people feel welcome, that this is a community experience and not just some dirty, dark thing that the windows are closed and I can't go in that building.
No, we feel the same way. We have kids come in with their parents here. Dogs come in, obviously.
Yeah, love the dogs. Love
Yeah.
the dogs. So in order for legalization to happen, so the voters basically voted yes. Okay, so after the yes happens, it's the how, right? And you know, to get the majority votes in the Senate and the majority of votes in the Assembly, you have to make some trades. And so for a lot of people, Republicans and Democrats, are concerned about, like, what about the children? What about this? What about that? And those are legitimate concerns that law enforcement would have, that the coach of the football team would have, and so forth. So in order to address some of the concerns that the parents would have, local leadership would have, you come up with these rules and regulations that are, at the time, make sense. Oh, you got to do this before they walk in. You got to do that when they check out. You got to all these other things and all these other, to make it seem like it's some dirty thing. And now that we're in several years later, and you're like, this is wonderful. This is great. These are small mom and pop operators. I'm a veteran-owned business. There's a black-owned business, a woman-owned business, whatever it is. They're business people that are out there who put everything in. They went all in, and all they want is a normal experience for their customers. And if we want to tell people, like, yes, and the education is there. The education is getting out there and it's growing. But you want to tell people and assure them that you know, cannabis is better for you than alcohol or opioids or other benzos or whatever, that this is a safer option, then why does it look so dark and scary on the outside? Why can't I just walk in? And when you walk in, you're seeing, you know, mine looks like a Whole Foods store. You know, you walk in other places, it's like an Apple store. It's something that's the personal feeling of the ownership to make it warm and welcome, and they spend money to do that. So the rules were there for a reason in the beginning, and that was to get things across the finish line. Okay, now that we're here, and we're watching that the crime is not what we thought it would be, or not that we thought, but rather the concerns were. So the crime didn't reach to the level of concerns that people have, this thing, that thing, whatever those concerns might be, the proliferation of weed on the streets. Well, guess what? That's been there for my entire life, and I'm 56. So what we're seeing is that people are coming off of the street weed. They're going to the tried and true tested cannabis. So you know that what you're ingesting is something that's safe. So all those things come down to how can we normalize this, and one of the ways we do is just by making it normal. And you walk into a bank and you can get that lollipop there. You walk into, you know, the local hardware store, you get this experience, and that's what I want to have, that normal old hardware store experience.
Absolutely right. Thank you. You're a good man, Scott. I hope things are going to go and work well for you.
Thank you.
You deserve the best. You
Thank you.
really do. You're been always humble and straight, and really always made sense with what you say. And I think that you are on your way to do great in your store. It's a little bit more time. It's a little bit more patient. It's a little bit more training. It's a little bit of everything, more selling, upselling, you name it. Scott's going to get there. Whatever he needs to do, he's going to do. So peace out, everyone.
Peace.